Hey toy fans, this is your boy Rhythm Chef coming back at you with another toy review. Today I'm taking a look at the Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates April O'Neil figure. As I said in my last video, which was the review of the Michelangelo, this is from Wave 3. As I said in my last video, April is going to be the one that I'm taking a look at next because, strangely enough, April O'Neil was one of my favourite toys in my childhood, not just of the Teenage Mutant Ninja toy line, not just of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy line, but in general. She was just a really great toy. I had the version 2 of April, which was the one with the orange boots and the new head sculpt, which looked a lot more like the cartoon version of her. I didn't have the Wave 1 release, I got the Wave 2. And that figure was just excellent. I mean, when I first got it, I didn't really expect much from it. But it was just such a great toy. I love the colours, I love the sculpt, and you know, April is a core character, and she was pretty much in every game that I played. She was always in it, and I suppose one of the reasons why I liked her so much is because female toys were quite rare in the 1980s. I mean, a lot of toy manufacturers were a bit apprehensive of making toys of girls for boys' toy lines, so some of them were quite well, first and foremost, they were very rare, and when you did get them, they might not have been, you know, so well sculpted or that great. But that April figure from the TMNT Wave 2, which is I believe 1989/1990, it was just brilliant, and I absolutely loved that toy, and I still love that toy, and I will be doing some comparisons of it later. So with that in mind, April O'Neil was one of the figures I was most looking forward to in this Wave 3, and most looking forward to in general. Now, I was a little disappointed that Super 7 didn't really show many shots of the development of this figure. I think probably for fear of backlash, because the first prototype, the face was, you know, not looking too great, and a lot of fans complained. And with female figures, I think generally toy collectors have hold them to a higher standard than the male figures, and rightfully so. I mean, we're living in an age where, you know, weak ass sculpts are not tolerated, you know, in this generation of toy production. I mean, getting the females right is a very I suppose it's a very difficult task, but also a very important task, because you want your female figures to look good, man. It's no good having a figure with a, you know, a busted face and just looking not like the figure she's supposed to represent. So yeah, I know there was some backlash towards the Thundercats Ultimates Chitara figure, which was just a test shot. So I think with that in mind, Super 7 was a little bit apprehensive to show the development of the April figure. I mean, we've got 1 or 2 test shots, but that's about it. No painted prototypes, nothing. And I think for figures that you're pre-ordering, like, I don't know, what did the pre-orders go up last year? So you're pre-ordering a figure in good faith. I think it's only fair to show the fans the development of the figure that they've already prepaid and bought. You know what I'm saying? Don't fucking do some hide-in type shit where you're going to hide the figure until you actually bring it out, and then you're going to bait and switch people. No, that's not on, man. That's not good business in my eyes. I think you should be transparent when you're dealing with people. But that's just my opinion, you know. Anyway, let's take a look at the figure. So here's the outer brown shipping box. It's just like any other Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ultimates. You get the brown outer shipping box. It says April O'Neil on the front. On the back, it's got some information. It says made by Super 7, so on and so forth. So that's that, out of the way. So where's the actual figure? So this is how she looks outside of that shipping box. She comes in this plastic bag to protect the product, I guess. On this you have a green background, because all the hero characters are supposed to come on green and the enemies are supposed to come on purple. On the front you can see you got this logo with April O'Neil's face on it, and I think 2 Channel 6 news cameras by the side of her. On the back you've got the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1980s animated series logo. So let's cut this out the package. So out of that protective plastic bag, we can do the big reveal. Now this is going to be new for me because I haven't actually opened this figure. I'm doing this live on camera. I saw a few photographs from some posters on the Frush forum who have got the April figure in hand and have taken some photographs, but you never really know until you get it in hand. And I don't know what this is going to be like. I might be surprised, I might be pleased, I might be disappointed, who knows, but it's all going to be captured live on camera here. So the kind of thing that April would say on channel 6, I guess. So let's remove this and find out what we've got. It's like opening a damn Christmas cracker. Right, so far so good. Is she good looking? Is she ugly? Who knows? Let's find out. Okay. Okay. I actually think that's not bad. Forgive me, ice cream truck. Oh, you can't see on the camera. Forgive me. I can see, but you can't see. Let's put this back. She doesn't look bad. She doesn't look bad. I'm not sure which of the heads I prefer. This head's looking very good to me so far. That head looks good, but this head in the middle, I don't know if it's hitting the mark, but we'll find out soon enough. So you can, yeah, it's a bit dark, but you can't really see it. I'll have to take her out of the box. So let's take her out of the box and find out what's going on. Okay, back again. So now I have April out of the packaging, and we can take a good look at the figure. First thoughts are a bit mixed. You know, this is a figure I had to actually take a minute to actually play about with it, have a feel, see how it moves, what accessories are before I could come to a verdict on it. So there's a couple things I want to point out first and foremost, which I think there's some things that could have been done to help make this figure look better straight out of the box. Now, one of them is that as the figure comes in the box, it comes packaged with these hands here, which are completely ridiculous if you ask me. She's got these fists, right? So April O'Neil has fists, but April O'Neil isn't a fighter, so why should she come with fists? She's a reporter, and she's a woman, right? Now, me personally, I spent a lot of years studying fine art and animation, so on and so forth. So I spent a lot of time doing figure drawing, and so visual art's something I'm really into. And there's some things that you can do to make women look a lot more feminine, and one of those things is by giving them the right hand gestures, because hands can be just as expressive as the eyes or the mouth or the face overall. You can convey a lot of emotion through hands. So I think it was a bit of a fail that Super 7 packaged April with these clenched fists, because it makes her look, it doesn't make her look very feminine in the box, and straight out of the box it's like you're looking at it and thinking, well, something's not right with this figure. It doesn't really look that great because there she's with, you know, clenched fists. She's not really gonna, I don't really see her fighting foot soldiers or Shredder with those clenched fists. Now I want to make another point. I've got my vintage April here, and I'm going to show you. So this was the V2 April from Wave 2 of the original TMNT line, and as out of the box, as you can see, she does not have clenched fists. She's got a hand to hold the microphone and a hand to hold a shuriken, but they're not clenched fists. So she doesn't look all tense and rigid in her default position. Whereas this Super 7 April does. Maybe I should put this back a bit so you could put it in the shot. Yeah, this Super 7 April does. So first things first, we're going to look at her accessories. We're going to make this figure a little bit better if we can. So, let me put this down. She comes with altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 sets of hands. So she does have 8 sets of hands, so that's okay. Now, first of all, we have these open hands. These hands, which are much more feminine. These make a massive difference to the figure. You have 2 gun holding hands. So a left trigger finger and a right trigger finger, which is fine. As you can see, I've put the gun in there already. That's cool. You also have 2 holding hands. Now for this, I put the shuriken in there because it fits in pretty well. and for the other hand I put the briefcase in there because it fits very, very well. And then also you've got the two clenched fists that she's got there. So let's start by changing these hands out. So we're going to put an open hand. So first of all, look at this. Yeah, she looks all tense, like she's ready to take, like she's constipated or something. Let's take this out. Give her a more feminine hand, more expressive hand. There you go. And already the figure looks a lot better. See, that hand is much more feminine. That makes a big difference. It should have been packaged with better hands, man, because even the vintage toy did not have those clenched fists. So that just screams laziness on Super 7's part. In the fact that they claim, oh yeah, we're going to be recreating the old vintage figures, but yet in the package, you're not packaging them the way the vintage figures were packaged. If you know what I mean. At least that's something that they tried to do for the most part with Masters of the Universe Classics when Mattel was doing it. Yeah, they did make some mistakes, but for the most part they did get that vintage look right in the box. Now let's change out this right hand. Let's give her the gun hand. Oh, let's give her another feminine hand actually, just to prove the point. So already this figure looks a lot better. You know, she looks like much more sort of not so tense. There you go. Now there's another thing I want to point out while I'm on this point. This is the head that comes packaged in the box, right? Now this is the head that was supposed to have been added after fans complained that they were doing the original April head sculpt. So they said, oh, we'll go back and we'll give her a new head sculpt to match the V2 April, which is what I've got here. Now put these side by side, alright? It doesn't look like they've really made an effort to recreate this look, which is what I wanted. This was the best looking April, man. See, if you look at her, she looks pretty. Her hair's the right shape, flowing out the side, you know, resembles the cartoon look. And if you look at the paint detail on her face, like around her eyes, she's got those nice thick eyelashes, which makes her look pretty. And the pink lips, and she's actually got a smiling expression. Now if you look at the Ultimates April, she's basically got a resting bitch face. There's no emotion there, it's just a stiff face. And then on top of it, the eyelashes aren't painted correctly. They should be thicker. And the overall shape of the hair, the sculpting detail does not match the sculpting detail on this 1989, I think 1999, 1990 figure. So it's an okay face, but it's not a face that I fell in love with straight out of the package. And even look at the skin tone. She's very pink on the new figure, whereas the skin tone's much more less red on the old figure. It's better skin tone. And also there's just no expression in that face, man. She's not smiling. She's just dead face, man. That's why I call her a resting bitch face April. Now, as I said, it's taken me a while to warm up to this figure. I think I've warmed up to her a bit now, but I want to point out another thing. She's got no neck, right? It's just head, chin, shoulders. There's no neck. If you look at the vintage April again, there is a neck there, and a neck gives that look of elegance, makes her look more feminine. Come on, man, this is a figure made in 1990. This is made in 2020/2021. Little things like this could have been corrected and made better, man. So it's a bit disappointing in that sense, because she just got no neck. Now what does look better, if you take the head off, it's a very short pin, but a very deep hole and recess in here. What can make her look better is if you just rest the head on top, so it looks like she's got more of a neck, and that makes her look more elegant and feminine already. But the head's, it's not secure. So if you want to secure the head, you have to press it down, and then she returns to having no neck. Now, articulation wise, she can't look down very far, she can't look up very far. It's not too great. So while I'm on the topic of the heads, let me swap the heads out. So this is supposedly this is supposed to represent this, but it just failed. So let's put our other heads on. First head is supposed to resemble the vintage toy. I will give credit where it's due. But this head does look very, very, very much like the original release April toy. So I'll give him credit for that. The sculpting detail matches it greatly. But again, there's not really much expression in his face. It's just no emotion, man. No emotion. But the hair seems to be the correct shape, resembling the original release toy. So this is an okay head, but because I didn't grow up with this version of April, it doesn't really cut it for me. But she has one other head. There we go. Just putting it on. This is the other head she comes with, and here's the annoying thing. This head is the only one which actually has some emotion in it. See, she's smiling, she looks happy, there's character there. But she's got this headset sculpted into the head. So if you want to have her with this expression, she has to have the headset on, and that doesn't make sense if she's just standing there talking to the turtles when they're in a sewer lair or something. And this is the only head with any type of expression on it, and it's just very, very a real shame. A real shame, because as I said, the vintage Abel, she's got a lot of expression there. She's got character, the eyes look pretty. You know, I think they worked hard on this toy, because trying to sell toys to boys, trying to sell female toys to boys back in the 80s was a big deal. You know, not something that was a lot of people wanted to do, but I mean, come on, man. Hasbro, it's not Hasbro, Super 7, man. And again, the price you're paying for these figures, man, you should be getting better head sculpts. Let me see if I've got some other toys on my shelf here. Let me just grab this one, Storm Collectibles. Now, this is Storm Collectibles Chun-Li, and if you was to compare these heads just on a sculpting level alone, the Storm Collectibles kills it. This doesn't look like a 50 pound toy head to me. But with all that being said, ultimately I'm going to use this head, the one she came packaged with, because it's the one that is the closest to the vintage toy, and the hair colour is somewhat more resembles what April should have, you know, her hair colour. So as I said, this is the face that I had to learn to love this, you know, and you know, it's not something that I could immediately take out the box and be like, oh yeah, I'm happy with this. I really had to sit down and, you know, try it with different angles, different lighting, but finally I've come to the conclusion that I will use this head, although I will use the other April heads for sort of like, you know, earlier on in my storyline, she has this hairstyle, and then eventually she gets this hairstyle, because the faces actually, the head sculpts themselves are pretty similar. It's just the hair that's really different. So that's that. Now, I suppose you should move on to articulation. Okay, so in terms of articulation, that's another area where I'm somewhat disappointed, because she can move her head left to right, can't look up or down very much. She has shoulders that can go up 360, out that far. Now she has an upper an elbow rotation and single jointed elbows, and that's one of the main problems for this figure, because double jointed elbows would really help a character like April O'Neil, particularly when she has to hold a microphone. So let me see if I can get her to hold the microphone. I have to change the hand out. Put the gun hand. So here's a trigger figure hand. That fits the microphone pretty well. So if you put the microphone in, she's supposed to be holding the microphone up to her mouth, and she can't do that. That's as far as she can get. That's very disappointing. Come on, man. This is supposed to be the ultimate TMNT, and she can't hold the mic up to her mouth. It just doesn't really look that great. So that's a fail there. No ab crunch, another fail. Ab rotation, sorry, waist rotation. Okay, fair, she's got waist rotation, that's cool. In terms of the legs, you can kick straight out that far. Yeah. And going back, not very far at all. Now, I'm not going to complain about that because they did at least give her some form of an arse here that's sculpted in, so that's kind of cool. Another fail for me is the knees. She's got a single jointed knee which only goes that far. So it makes crouching poses pretty crap, you know. Can't really get into deep crouches with her. Another place where they're lazy is there's no... What, you've got a rotation at the knee. Okay, fair enough, right? But there's no lower or upper boot cut leg rotation. That's just fixed in place. Fail, right? Another fail is they've given you an ankle rocker, okay, but no pivot. So you can't adjust the feet. Now one of the problems out of the box is that the feet aren't flat, right? The feet stand at an angle. So unless you put her with a sort of like straight leg stance such as this, move the camera a bit. Right. So unless you're putting her in a straight legged stance such as this, she stands okay like that. But anytime you want to have like a, and it's not a great stance, that's just like, for a woman that's not a great stance, that's very boring. So if you want to have her a bit more dynamic, so her legs a little bit out in more of an A stance, the right foot doesn't sit flush to the floor. If you look at the right foot, you can see there's a shadow. It's not sitting flat. So I don't know if it's a case where the leg's been warped in the packaging, and I might have to heat it up and move it a bit, then put some cold water to fix it in place. I don't know if that's the case, but basically this whole issue would have been solved by ankle pivot, which it seems all the other figures in the line have, but they've gone cheap on April. It's like they've gone cheap on her. She's missing parts of articulation which other figures have, and these figures are already quite limited in articulation anyway, so I'm like, what the fuck, man, what's going on? So that's a bit of a fail. Like if I put her side on, you can clearly see the feet aren't sitting flat on the floor. Now she does stand okay, but here's another problem. They've given her nice sculpted detail on the boot, but there's no peg hole. So you can't put peg holes in her feet to put her on a potential display stand. Which is weird, because there's some other figures in this line which have peg holes and others that don't. For example, there's the Shredder. Here's the Shredder. He has peg holes. You see? There's peg holes for him to stand on a display stand. But some figures have them, some figures don't. So I've noticed that none of the Turtles have them. I think Bebop's got them, maybe Rocksteady's got them, Shredder's got them, the Foot Soldiers don't, Splinter's got them, I think. But it's just random. And I'm like, well, what the hell, man? If you're going to give some peg holes, why not give all? It just doesn't make any sense in terms of consistency. Yeah, I was right. See, here's Bebop, and he has peg holes on his feet. So why are you giving peg holes to some and not all? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's not like Super 7 has their own brand of display stands, which, you know, you could pick up and put these figures with. You have to find your own stands or make your own stands to work with these figures, and as a result, sometimes you can be left up shit creek without a paddle, because if you've got stands which have pegs and these figures don't have peg holes, unless you want to customize these figures yourself and add your own peg holes or holes to them, you have to find a different type of stand. So that's quite annoying. But enough about that. Some things that I will say that are positive. In terms of the sculpting detail, in terms of a yellow jumpsuit, it is very faithful to the original toy. A couple points in particular, for example, if I turn her around, she still has the Turtles logo on the back of her costume, just like the original. Don't worry about the orange and stuff, because this orange is it's for the V2 figure. So I understand they didn't put it on this because they're going for the V1 April. But something I found really cool in terms of texture is, if you feel, you probably can't because you're watching, but I can feel it. There's a crease at the lower back of a jumpsuit, and it's the very same crease which is sculpted into this figure. So it does actually feel, in hand, it feels a lot like the original toy. And I like things like that, especially when I was collecting Masters of the Universe classics, because when I used to play with these toys when I was young, such as Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the way they felt in my hand was very particular. So when a toy, when I get an updated version of a vintage toy in my adult life, when I hold it in my hand and it actually feels like the original figure in terms of texture, that's a real hit of nostalgia for me. So that's quite a win. I'm very happy about that. So that's her articulation. I'm just going to run over her accessories in detail because I've only spoken about the hand so far. So what she comes with is, as you can see, she's got the microphone in her hand. She also comes with a flashlight, which is cool. I guess they couldn't decide whether she came with a microphone or a flashlight in the vintage toy, but according to the bio card for April O'Neil on the vintage toy, it was indeed a microphone. She has a handgun, which is just like the vintage toy, and you could put the camera on the handgun just like the vintage toy. So what you do, it's got a handgun there, and you slide the gun into the camera, and it doesn't really hold too secure. It'd be nice if it was a bit of a tight fit, but that's how it works, and she can quickly pull the gun out and blast some shots. So that's cool, and she holds it well in her hand. Let's give a demonstration. She could fit her finger through the trigger hole, which is great. So she holds that securely. But again, because there's no butterfly joints, you can't have her holding the handgun with two hands. For example, like, you know, in Resident Evil, when you're aiming your handgun, you're holding it with two hands. She just can't do it. She just can't do it. And that's fail. Another fail, man. Best she can do is this, I guess. So she's sneaking around. Oh, she's sneaking around, and maybe, oh shit. Here's Bebop. Whoa, blast him. You know, it's okay. It's okay. But not great. She also has, sit her down here. So she also has, she comes with some shuriken. Now she's got two shuriken, as you can see here, and they do fit in her hands quite nicely. They are actually smaller than the ones that come with the turtles themselves, by a significant margin. It's hard to kind of show these. See the two different sizes, but in the vintage line, her shuriken was the same size as the turtles ones. But if I just put this hand here, so she does hold that okay. Like she's gonna throw the shuriken or something. You can get her kind of, but again, posing her is a real beast because of the lack of ankle pivot, man. That is such a frustrating thing, because her feet just don't sit flat on the floor. And even then, that pose just looks so awkward. So awkward. What can you do? What can you do? What else does she come with? She also comes with a briefcase, as you can see here. But the problem with this is that the connector port, the plastic here is very thin, and I've only opened it once, and when I went to shut it again, I noticed I'm already getting stress marks here. So for that reason, I'm not really going to open this up very much. I'll just leave it like that probably. And that's a bit of a fail because, as I say, £50 toy, you should be able to use the accessories without fear of breaking them, man. But I suppose if you wanted to, she does come with the weapon sprue, and there's another briefcase on there, so you could cut that off the sprue if you wanted to, and use that as the open version and keep that closed so you don't potentially break the briefcase. One other accessory she does come with is this tripod, which just falls apart in my hand. Get that. Right, let's try that again. Picks it up and it falls straight apart. She comes with this tripod, which looks okay, but the thing is, it doesn't really, see, the leg keeps falling out. It's a bit lame. And it doesn't stand very high. So, what you can do is you can put the camera on the tripod. Okay, that's great, fine. Camera's on the tripod. The legs don't want to stay in. You can stand that up there if you can get it to balance, great. But unless you want to be constantly taking video footage of April's crutch and her ass, this tripod's not really much use because it only stands at waist height. Look at that. there, so you're not really if you're recording someone, the tripod really should be more up here than down here. So I guess if you want to do booty shots, like twerking videos with April, you can do that type of thing, but otherwise it's pretty damn useless, which is a shame, man. What I don't like is, especially with the Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates line, a lot of the weapons are poorly scaled, man. I'm like, scale the weapons correctly. A great example of that is Bebop's gun. Bebop's gun is very poorly scaled in relation to the size of the figure. His shield, you can hardly even fit the shield in his hand because it doesn't scale correctly. I mean, I know they want, Super 7's trying to give us a lot of accessories, that's great, but what I would rather is have quality accessories rather than quantity accessories. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to throw all this shit at you, but then they're cutting out on things like scaling the tripod correctly, giving April ankle pivot or upper boot cut rotation. Come on, man, these things, or even double jointed elbows and knees. These are more important things than fucking giving us Shredder with his poorly painted vintage type head. I mean, who wants that accessory? Come on, man. Some of these toy designers, man, they fucking piss me off, if I'm honest, man. It's like, what are you thinking, man, when you're doing this shit? Anyway, what else have we got? I think that covers all her accessories, to be honest. Oh, she's got a few other things, hang on. She does come with a press pass, which is okay. You could put that around her neck. Let's demonstrate that. Right, so that can go around her neck. Although, I don't like her wearing this personally because it kind of ruins the look of the open jumpsuit, which is, you know, typical for classic April from the cartoon. But you can do that. And she also has 2 turtle comms. Now she's got the one closed, which is the turtle shell here. She can put it in her palm like that, that's okay, she could do that, I suppose. And then you've got the other turtle comm, which is open, and again you could put that in her palm, and it doesn't really sit too snug. It does tend to fall around a bit, so it's just very loose. She's just clasping in her hand there, and that covers her accessories. So that's that for April. Let's put her gun back. Forgive me, that's my phone. I always forget to turn my phone off. So let me put her back the way I want it to be, and then we'll do some comparisons with other figures. See, so here's another thing. I'll just put in a video camera in her hand, and it doesn't stay on very securely, so it does tend to fall off just like it did there. But right, let's pretend this is a snug fit, which it isn't. It's just fucking loose as hell. When she's holding this camera, she can't put it up to her eye as if she's actually, you know, shooting with the camera. All she can do is hold it like this because of the lack of double hinged elbows. Once again, sometimes I wonder if these people, particularly Super 7, if they actually think about these toys being toys, or if they're just making them to just be statues that stand on a shelf. Because the lack of articulation hurts these figures so bad, and these are supposed to be ultimates, man. They're supposed to have better articulation than the vintage toys did, so some of those problems that the vintage toys had, we shouldn't be experiencing on these modern figures, especially for the price point. But that's that, and we're going to do some comparisons. Okay, so we're going to do some quick comparisons for April. We've done this already. Here's the vintage comparison. So there they are, the vintage April along with the modern April. And if I'm honest, man, the vintage toy looks so much more exciting. I mean, look at the painted detail. I know it's going to pop more because she's got the orange highlights, but I mean, that just looks like a much cooler figure. And the skin tone as well, it's not as pink, it's more natural looking. This April's got a very, very pinkish skin. And also the glossiness of the skin is like, it just doesn't look like skin, man. It just looks very glossy, and I know some people are saying that maybe if you apply a layer of dull coat that might help take it down a bit. But it is what it is. So let's put Leonardo in here so you can see how she looks with some of the heroes. The Turtles. There's Leonardo. So you can see his face. Oh, and there she goes. As I said, standing her up is a bit of a pain in the arse. Let's get another turtle. So here's Raphael. If they can actually stand. Put Raphael there. So that's how she looks alongside the turtles. Height-wise, I think that's a good look. I mean, they got the height of the figure's pretty cool. So that's that. Let's get Splinter in here. So here's Master Splinter. Take Raph out of the shot. So Splinter stands at a good height. That's pretty cool, I think. Let's get some villains next to her. So we'll start with the Shredder himself, because he's another human character. So you can see how the human characters stack up. So here's Shredder. To be honest, I think Shredder might actually be a little bit on the small side, because he stands just about the same height as April, that shouldn't be right. Especially according to the old bios, if I'm correct, Shredder's supposed to be 6 foot and April's 5'5". So someone's not been doing their job. Looking at you, Super 7. Now you've got a foot soldier here, and the foot soldier stands taller than each of these. Yeah, the foot soldier's taller. So Shredder should not be the same height as April O'Neil. April should be shorter than the Shredder, but unfortunately she is not. Now, if we get, we could go right to the other end of the spectrum. We put Bebop in there. See, this is what I'm saying, man. The scale's all over the board with this Turtles Ultimates line, man. It's all across the board. I don't know who's. It's like nobody's keeping track of shit, man. Now they're gonna fall. Knew that would happen. If we could get Bebop to stand. There he's standing. I have to put him in a bit of a hunched over stance because he doesn't like to stand very well when you stand him straight up, but Shredder can stand now. Right, Shredder's standing. Now finally let's get April standing. And you can see how she stacks up against these figures. And she looks good next to Bebop. I mean, she looks like, you know, as she should next to Bebop. But I still say Shredder is too short. But all in all, I've said a lot of negative things about this figure because I think there were some major disappointments with it. But there's also some positives, in the sense that it is nice to have an April O'Neil, because she's an essential character, and she's a very important part of the Turtles mythos, and it is good to have her. But just quickly, I'm going to do two more quick comparisons, I should say, with other toy lines, so you can get a feel for what I'm saying in terms of quality. Let's take this for example. You've got the McFarlane Toys Harley Quinn from DC Universe, and this is a $20 figure versus a $50 figure. You know, I think this April could have been better. Look, because Harley Quinn's got double jointed elbows. Come on, man. It's not like McFarlane is a huge company as well, but they gave us double jointed elbows and also double jointed knees and foot pegs and a foot display stand. So you can do things with Harley. Let's grab another off my shelf. What have I got here? I don't know. I already used the Storm Collectibles Chun-Li, so let's talk about this again. to the Storm Collectibles, and I mean, I think Storm Collectibles are super overpriced. But again, it's another small company, and we get double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, waist, ab crunch. Look at that, forward and back. And there's no visible ab crunch there. So what the hell is your excuse, Super 7? Butterfly joints on the elbows. A good head sculpt. You know, left and right, up and down. You can do all kinds of poses with this Chun-Li, but April O'Neil's like flipping. You can't really do much with her, man. But let me just wrap this up and give you my final thoughts. Okay, so there you have it. That's my review of the Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Wave 3 Ultimates April O'Neil figure. And as I said, it's a mixed bag. I mean, there's some good things about this figure, and there's some things which are not so great. The things which are not so great ultimately end up outweighing the positives, I think, on this figure. I think this is quite disappointing. I mean, it's not as bad as the NECA April, which had the massive head and the tiny body. But it's just a lot of things that there's a lot of small changes which could have made a big difference to this figure. For example, double hinged elbows, double hinged knees, an ankle rocker, upper boot cut. Those would have made a big difference because you could put her in much more expressive poses. I think the updated head is subpar. I mean, it's just got no expression on its face. The eyes aren't painted correctly as they should have been, in line with the vintage toy. The skin texture it just looks really glossy and really pink. It doesn't really doesn't look as good as some other other human characters that I'm looking at. For example, Storm Collectibles. So I'm just looking at my shelf here. Storm Collectibles, McFarlane, some Marvel Legends, some G.I. Joe Classifieds, Masters of the Universe Classics. I mean, the skin textures just all look so much better. But should you buy this figure? Well, I think if you're a fan of the vintage 1988 wave, the original 10 back, then yes. And then again, I still think she's worthwhile because April's an integral part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story. In all incarnations, April O'Neil has played a part. So I think she's a worthwhile character, and you know, she's someone that does need some kind of representation in a good TMNT display. So let me see, out of 10, what would I give this figure out of 10? Probably out of 6.5. And I really wanted this to be a 9 or a 10 because she's one of the characters that I was most looking forward to, strangely enough. I'm kind of strange like that. Some of my favourite characters aren't some of the figures that maybe other Turtles fans had a strong affinity to in their childhood, but for me, that vintage April figure, man, she really hit the spot. And as I said, she was in practically every game that I played, and I never grew tired of that figure at all. But yeah, there's my review of the Super 7 TMNT Wave 3 Ultimates April O'Neil figure. I hope it's been helpful in determining whether you want to add this figure to your collection or not. Me, she's going to stay in my collection because, you know, I want to have the original 10 at least of the TMNTs, because that original 10 was great. And I also want Wave 2 because that's what I had as a child. I had some Wave 3 figures such as Ray Fillet and Slash. But it's around that time that I stopped collecting Turtles because they started doing stupid shit like, you know, Sewer Surfing Michelangelo and Samurai Leonardo, Don the Undercover Agent, Raphael the Space Cadet. Around that time they started just doing all these stupid Turtle variants, and me, I like the original concept of Turtles. I don't need Raphael to be flying around in space. I don't need Leonardo dressed as a Sewer Samurai. So when it comes to getting those figures in this Ultimates line, I'm going to be sidestepping those for the most part. Yeah, I don't need no Sewer Surfing Mike. And as a child, I hated the wacky action variants too. That's a big part of what burned me out of Turtles as a child. When they done Sewer Swimming Donatello, Break Fighting Raphael, Rock and Roll Michelangelo, and Sewer Slicing Leonardo. Those variants were kind of lame to me because I don't like toys with action features which hinder the articulation. Although I will say Slice and Dice Shredder was actually a really cool toy. I did like that one. But anyway, that's enough about that. I hope this review's been informative and enjoyable, and it helps you decide whether you want to get this figure or not. One thing I will say is that I don't like the bait and switch tactics that Super 7 pulled with this April. As many fans have said, you should have shown prototypes of this figure along the way. You know, you say, okay, we're going to revise April, we're going to give it a whole new head sculpt. You didn't give fans a chance to look at the head sculpt and say, yeah, it's on point, or no, it's not. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of cowardly, and I don't like them fucking bait and switch tactics that they're trying to pull. You know what I mean? We pre-ordered this figure in good faith. Took nearly a year to get the figure, and when it comes out, it's subpar. Disappointing, man. Very disappointing. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, that's that, and hope you've enjoyed the review, and it's on to the next one. Take care. So before I end this review of the TMNT Ultimates April O'Neil, I just want to make a point. Here. So here's the April O'Neil figure that Super 7 have given us, okay, and that's the face sculpt. I've said already, it's quite disappointing. This is a really, really disappointing head sculpt. But the thing is, it's not like they didn't have potential to do better. Because as I've said, this head sculpt from the vintage toy is so much more like April, much more close as a resemblance. This is a vintage toy. I'm going to use another example. Here's vintage Tila from the Masters of the Universe toy line, and look how her face is. Look how her eyes are painted. Maybe I should take a snake hood off so you can see it better. Right, look how her eyes are painted. See? Look at the detail on the face, and it actually looks feminine. This in 2021? Come on, man. I mean, are you serious? And it's not like there wasn't potential for references, because I've got my vintage, some of my vintage TMNT comics, and that's April, man. See, look at that face. Well, let's find some other examples. There you go. Here's another prime example. That's how April should be looking, man. Come on now. Come on now. And we get this. This is weak as hell, man. She focuses. Yeah. This is... Come on, man. There we go, that's it. This is not good. It's passable, but it's nowhere near good. I just have to live with it, I guess.